coach Tarek.
And I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Paul.
We are your movement experts, and we are here to educate health and fitness professionals with the tools to create real change for and within the industry.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Purpose Driven Movement Podcast. My name is Vanessa and I'm so glad to be here today with Tarek and Paul, my other amazing co-hosts, for what we know is going to be an incredible podcast. Hey guys.
Hey Ines, we're super excited for this first launch.
Yep, very pumped to see what we can bring to the world of health and fitness.
So how today's going to work is I get to be a little quiz master for you and for myself as well. And for you following along at home, we just want you to know a little bit about why we kind of started this and what we do in the industry and what we're going to be bringing to you each and every week, which we are so super pumped about. So first question. Now, this question, guys, is the question that we might see pop up week to week. So I'm pretty keen for it. Now, if you could change anything in the health and fitness industry instantly, what would it be?
Ooh, who's going to go first? Tarek, you or I?
Sir Paul. Sir Paul.
It's been shafted off to me. All right, cool. I am more than happy. The barrier to entry. If I could change it like that, like Thanos with his 6 Infinity Stones and snapping his fingers, I would be changing the barrier to entry. Not because I think it should be accessible to people. I don't think we need like a full-on master's degree to get into the fitness industry. It's an ongoing development industry. And that's exactly why we do this podcast. This is why all three of us do what we do in our everyday lives. Like we help trainers get better. That's why we're here. But the low, 4 to 8 week period for some people, some of the online courses, there's some great organizations out there that have longer courses that do more work and they get better trainers. It's an industry where we do need to have some kind of real life component to it. People need to get some time. They need to get some skin in the game. They need to get some sweat in their back and dripping down their forehead, time under the bar, and some experience training real life clients. I work with a lot of online coaches who have never trained a person in real life before. I think that's a concern. So if I could just snap my fingers and make it happen, I would have a little bit of a higher barrier to entry just to also make sure that the trainers who come into the industry also stay for a little bit longer because retention in our industry is a problem and we need to improve that.
So I agree. And I've always said this over the years, is a mentoring, an official kind of mentoring. It need not be one particular organization. It could be government sort of run or regulated, but we need a mentoring program. You think about tradies, yeah? My brothers are electricians, two of them are. They go through 4 years of in-depth, practical, like you said, Paul, hands-on learning, as well as a theoretical side. And so I think at least a year of a mentorship program that is sustainable, that is regulated to a degree, because you're going to get variances, right? And after that, just like you said, Paul, they can fly on their own and they can access other great minds out there in the industry, right? Like Paul, like yourself or Vanessa, and learn more and more through that modality. But at least a year, that's my perspective on it.
I love this question and I love both of those answers. And I'm so interested to hear the answer to this question. Mine is along the same track. However, mine is more about the transparency of your qualifications. So there are millions and millions of people on Instagram, millions of people on YouTube, and they all are throwing fitness items, health products all in people's faces. And we have absolutely no idea what their qualifications are, what their experience is. Like you said, Paul, there's these online trainers who've never worked with a single person in the flesh. How do we know who we can trust online in this space? If I could click my fingers, I would say that we need complete transparency on those platforms where people have to include their experience, their qualifications, their work experience to be able to sell or spruik any of their products online to people. Just like you wouldn't walk into a doctor's office, you wouldn't have their qualification not sitting there. It's an industry where we can affect so many lives for the better, but also so negatively as well. I feel like there really needs to be a lot more openness in that.
See, if you did that, so many Instagram users would go down significantly very quickly. Because because people will be running a million miles to be like, oh, sorry, guys, I'll be back in 6 weeks.
I didn't see a problem with that. Sorry.
It's really wading through the charlatans and the gurus out there, right? In a sense that either are teaching the stuff to others to be able to then deliver, or it's those who are actually delivering to the general public, right? So I think it really goes hand in hand with the educators, if you like. I feel that it's important to differentiate between a guru and a leader, yeah? From my experiences, a leader leads by example, and a guru would often say, I stand against this, this and that, but they won't really say that I stand for something significant, and therefore collaboration doesn't really factor in at any one level. So it's sort of like really positing their belief strongly, and that my way is the only way. So then you've got this friction, right? I know this can feed into, murkier waters, but I feel that's an essential aspect, is the educator or educators need to be at that high level as well.
Agreed.
It's cool. It's such a great question, and I'm so excited to hear so many different perspectives on it as well. So yeah, can't wait for those first episodes. Shall we move to question 2, gents?
We shall.
All right. This one's a bit broader. What are your work/health/troubles, any kind of troubles or struggles that you want to talk about that you think are helpful in sharing to a wider audience?
Oh, Tarek, you can go first on this one now.
From my perspective, or just what I see?
Both. No, what are your struggles?
Look, I think it's certainly the balance. I mean, earlier days, and I'm talking years ago, when I was doing a lot of hands-on training, it was that whole balance, right, of making sure that you train the requisite amount of clients and you're still studying, and you had that balance of really being able to help in that hour that you had, let's say, with that client, and to be there fully present with your full energy, not being tired and worn out. So I think, like energy, it's the transferability. So, even your clients will pick up on that, right? Even on the phone, like there's a transference of energy, and the other person receiving that will know energy's down or whatever it may be. So I think that cliche balance is really important, of knowing when to invest in, and we talked about, ties into question 1, right? To continue to invest in your own journey as a fitness professional, but being specific about that, really understanding that specific skill that you're wanting to learn, whether it's to be a better technician or whether it's to be a better business operator, right? That's sort of what I'm seeing is really that kind of balance is really essential. And then, of course, there's many things we can dive into throughout this podcast on habit formation in the mornings, throughout the day, in the evenings, that help to prop up energy. I've got my own practices in the morning and evening that I do, and I'm happy to share that at some other point, because I think that's important too, not just to whiz over that. Yeah, that's my perspective.
Cool. So my one's a little different. So I think we're going to talk about, like, from a personal perspective, and then also what I teach clients and what clients can benefit from. So more, and also coaches as well, is just the practice of self-compassion. So I've talked about this a lot in a number of different podcasts and interviews and courses, and it's a misunderstood topic. So just to quickly summarize it, self-compassion is not giving yourself a hug saying everything's okay all the time. It's holding yourself accountable to a point, but also forgiving yourself when things go sideways. So 3 components to it. First one is mindfulness, being aware of what's going on. Second is self-talk. How do you talk to yourself? Which most people talk to themselves fairly terribly, let's be honest. And the next one is common humanity, which is realizing that your problem is not unique only to you. And this is really important for trainers, for fitness professionals, for general population. First thing with trainers. Most trainers that I've worked with and deal with and mentor still to this day have body image issues. They hold themselves to this ridiculously high standard of how they should look, of how they should train, how they should perform. They should feel upbeat and energetic all day. And it's just not realistic. And they beat themselves up. Their business may not be where they want it to be or where they see their peers are. From what they see on Instagram, they're not as successful as what others are, right? When we know Instagram's a highlight reel, blah, blah, blah. But with that, a lot of trainers beat themselves up and treat themselves poorly. And they would never speak to a colleague like they do to themselves. Like, I've done it myself. I've beaten the hell out of myself for, I should be more ripped, or I should have more money. I should have more clients, or whatever it is. And learning how to speak to myself kindly, but also hold myself accountable when I was being lazy or not taking the actual action that I needed to succeed, was probably the most profoundly transformative experience in my career. actually in my book, I've actually written a whole chapter about it. And with clients as well. How many clients have come in to see their coach and gone, oh, I missed the workout, or I got drunk on the weekend or whatever, and they've just blown out totally and they've ruined everything? Pretty much every single one. And how many think it's unique to them? Pretty much every single one. Like on this podcast, there's 3 of us here. Who's missed the workout? Me. We all have. These things, these universal experiences that we have, if I could share from my experience of my background and with my clients, that to pretty much every fitness professional and also client, it would make continual progress for everyone, progression, both career, physique, health, etc., to be much better, because it gives you a tool to overcome setbacks. Setbacks are what, they happen to us. They're inevitable. It's not the setback that's a problem. It's our response. So that's kind of like the tool and the lesson that I would probably share with absolutely everyone if I could.
Awesome. Such great responses. I'm going to go a completely different tactic. Personally, it's really interesting that the headspace of a young trainer compared to a trainer who's been in the game for 15 years, you think you know so much when you first get into the industry. And then the more you do, the less you know. And then you continue to realize how little you know. And for me, my personal struggles have been like more health struggles. Over the last 3 years, I found out I have Hashimoto's. I found out that I potentially am a celiac, that I have quite a high level of hypermobility spectrum disorder, which there aren't very many doctors who seem to understand exactly what it is. And I got diagnosed with ADHD. So in my 30s, as a female, also potentially having a little bit of PCOS or endometriosis, I had all of these factors thrown at me. I remember going through my course and my degree, the factors that we were looking at in terms of medical factors that we could help our clients with were like cardiovascular disease and arthritis and diabetes. And while there's still major health issues that we still want to help our clients with, now we have this minefield of mental and physical chronic health conditions that even doctors, specialists in their field, have very little to no idea on how to begin treating. And not only are the physical sides of it really challenging, but the emotional side of it's really hard. Like you said, Paul, like the how you speak to yourself when you're in pain and when you're suffering and when you have all of this physical plus emotional kind of trauma inside you, that's really, really hard to navigate as a trainer. It's really hard to understand what your client might be going through. And through my own struggles, it's given me a really different perspective on autoimmune and people who have really debilitating injuries and who really have a lot of pain and who struggle to find people to give them the right advice. We can all use that kind of compassion and learning inside us that whatever happens to the physical body happens to the emotional body, and they're really not that separate. And we continue to make all of these issues separate in the system when I don't think they're separate at all. The more research that I do into my own issues, the more I find how closely related they are. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. I'd love to go deeper in detail about it. But these are the issues that we face now as trainers, and they are ridiculously complex. And I would just love to find ways that we could help trainers and people going through that navigate that as well.
Point 1, self-compassion.
Exactly.
Self-compassion. I love it. And I think I'd add to that what both of you have talked about here is really understanding the importance of emotional intelligence. And I think having that as a unit, for example, talking about things like how to set your mission would be part of it, your character strengths, and really standing firm to those. And I think that then ties into how you can be more empathetic or even transcending that to compassion. Yeah, so what Paul was saying there, it is transcending empathy. And compassion, I would add further, is an open-mindedness, but also an open heart space as well. And I think that channel between the mind and heart really needs to be factored in. And that's where we can start to step into the other's shoes. And then that has ramifications on how we approach our programming, how technical we can be, because this whole gamut of diseases that seem to be growing in number, we can start to tackle those challenges and start to then work in with other professionals to really understand those debilitating diseases, right? But also have that understanding that we can't beat our clients down with that same broad brush of programming, for example. So all of these factors tie in, but I feel that character strengths and knowing one's mission And ultimately, knowing thyself is really important as well in all of this. Because if we don't have that identity as who we are, then this other identity is the coach. And this ties into what Paul said. That all of a sudden, this identity as a coach means that there's this disassociation. Because me as a person, I'm vulnerable. We fail. We have shortfalls and shortcomings. And I think there's that disassociation between this other identity as the coach who has to be perfect, right? And I think it's such a really important point. I've suffered from that myself, and no doubt you guys have potentially had that journey, right? So we can all put our hands up to a degree. Really needs to be tempered, I think, in all of this.
Yeah, such a great deep response, but it's cool. I think the struggles is what our industry is founded on. We struggle together to try to get better. So it's like a really nice underlying place to start from.
That good old imposter syndrome, hey?
Yes.
You segued really well there, Tarek, into training. So I'm just going to throw it straight to you. What's your favorite way to train?
Oh, to me?
Yeah. Paul has to answer it as well, but I'm just going straight to you.
Yeah. Favorite way to train, I like to do a lot of what's called functional stuff, yeah? So I throw kettlebells around, all of those type of different implements, body weight, and I just enjoy it. I really try to get connected to the session, and it could be 20 minutes, it could be 1 hour. I don't really now have my own rigid plans because I'm not really attaining at the moment to, PBs or competitions of sorts or anything like that. And I think it's just, for me, the motivation is long term. I want to be in my 50s, 60s, if that permits, and being healthy and sustaining that for a very long time, and really being open to different techniques. I like martial arts, so I'm really looking to get back into different martial arts that I touched on in the past, because I think that skill is really important. And for me, it allows me to be really mindful and to really challenge me as well in mind and body. And I'm an avid hiker, so I love outdoors. I like to hike. I used to do a bit of climbing. That recreational element is really important to me as well.
Amazing.
My turn now. Cool. So if I had to just throw all my other goals out the window, I would just hoop. I would literally just play basketball, and I wouldn't care.
I thought you meant hula hoop. I was like, oh, amazing.
No. I would hula hoop. Yeah, that's all I do. I got 4 out the back. No, I play basketball. So, God, see, I've even got the lingo too deeply ingrained in my soul. So last year? Yeah, last year I set a goal for myself to play semi-professional again, which I achieved, which was pretty brutal at, approaching 40 this year. So that was tough on the old body. Like, I would just play basketball for fun all day, every day. It wouldn't really wear me out. It'd be fun. But as far as training goes, and Tarek could probably vouch for this, I'm fairly goal orientated all the time. So if there's a goal, I don't care about training stuff, which is I will suffer whatever I have to suffer to achieve said goal. I got this little switch. I'm like, all right, cool, that's a goal. I guess I just shut it off. The only thing I would say I don't enjoy, though, and this makes me sound like the most antithetical male trainer of all time, is I can't stand chest day. Like, chest day is the one thing that grinds my gears. I'm just like, this is why are we doing this?
Who even are you?
Who am I? Like, yeah, it was a chest push day yesterday, orientated around bench, and I'm just sitting at the bench, looking at the bar, going, why are you not on my back? Why do you exist here? It's very funny. So to answer the question, it's basketball, but when I have a goal set in mind, I don't actually care what the training is as long as it gets to the goal. So it's much more goal orientated. The enjoyment is not really innate in the activity, it's innately in the improvement, rather so than going, if kettlebell is going to get me to the goal, I'd love doing that. If it's bodybuilding, I love that. It doesn't matter. As long as I see it improve and I get better and I go deeper into the skill, which is probably why I love basketball so much, because it's so multifaceted, I'm happy with that. So simple to please as long as there's a goal.
So it's the outcome rather than the process. So that process could be painful. You could be enduring, whatever it may be.
As long as I'm improving. For basketball, this is fun. I was doing, what were they? It was 5-minute anaerobic threshold intervals. 5 minutes on, 2 minutes off. And I would do them for 45 minutes. And I enjoyed them by the end of it, because I was like, when I'd get to the game, I'd be able to play 3 games back to back and not be tired. And people were like, what are you on? Like, have you been doping? And I was like, no, my training is worse than the games. So then I'd get there and I'd be at the court, and it was basically full court sprints with the ball, lay up, catch the ball before it went through the net, full court sprint for 5 minutes. I enjoyed that, because I got better at the game. So like, I was like, cool. As long as I see improvement, I'm a happy boy.
You still got an impressive chest though, right? That's the main thing.
The only thing I got from that was I'm now going to call you Paul No Chest Day Meldrum.
No chest day. It's fine with me. It's all good. I'm happy with that. Well, I still do it. Even though I hate it, I still do it.
Training for me. Training is moving meditation for me. And ever since I remember, people have always said that I train weird. And I'm going to put like inverted commas on that. I was a gymnast. I was a dancer as a teenager, and I just love to move my body. I love moving with music. I love moving without music. And so when I first got out of high school, and I remember I went to this bodybuilder gym right near my house. You'd love this chest man, no chest man. You would lie down on the bench, you're about to do bench press, and on the roof are pictures of bodybuilders. So that you had like heaps of motivation to like really punch out those reps while you were laying there.
I can one up that, but I'll wait till you answer.
That was just not for me. It just wasn't my thing. So I tried a lot of different things. I did a lot of different sports, but I love just, like an animal flow or an Ido Botal, or I love skipping. I love Viper. I love throwing some kettlebells around. I love a bit of everything. I think I find exercise a lot more enjoyable when I have a skill that I can see progress. I want to see myself getting better, but something that requires my attention so that my head doesn't like think about other things. So, for a while there, I was doing, cycling and dancing on a bike, and that was really fun because you had great music. It's really versatile what can hold my attention. I just love moving my body. If I didn't do it, I think I'd go mad.
So it's a form of meditation, yeah, for you.
Yeah. And now knowing that I have ADHD, it makes total sense. I just literally can't sit still. Even sitting here, I have moved my body about 4 or 5 different times.
I'm just swinging. It was funny you said that about the gym with the bench press and you got the chest up there. The most interesting gym I went to was in New York City. It was obscenely expensive. It had a DJ blasting tunes out, like in the middle of like on top of the gym floor looking down like it was a club. The room was lit dark, okay? But every single machine had down lights coming down on the body part you were training.
Oh, wow.
It was as unreal setup. I was like, I want to have a gym like that.
That is cool. That's really cool.
It was very, very cool. It was very odd.
All right. This isn't on the questions, but I'm just going to throw it in there. That sounds like a really interesting place to train. What's another interesting place that you've trained then, Tarek?
Well, not that interesting, but God, I'd have to think around that. I've trained in a lot of places. Normally for me, it wouldn't be about the aesthetics. I just go in there and just want to kind of, perform the movements or whatever it may be. So I'd have to think around that and probably share again.
When I was doing calisthenics and training more like in the Ido Portal style many years ago, I got a whole bunch of photos of stuff of me doing handstands and all the different movements on Machu Picchu.
Oh, awesome. That's cool.
Whoa.
Yeah, I got a lot of weird looks and the alpacas were like, what? But it was very, very cool.
That's cool. I was going to say my boyfriend's most favorite ever training experience was when we were in Mexico and we walked into this it was like a giant garage. It was total concrete floors, and I have never seen so many machines ever in my entire life. It was like a jungle of steel, and they weren't like, nice leather machines. These were like rock hard, rusty steel machines that had been left there for like 40 years, and like there was no space on the floor. And as a movement person, it took me like half an hour going through all these machines. Like what does this even do? I couldn't work out half of them because they don't really work for me anyway. But the bodybuilding boyfriend was like in total and absolute heaven. He even made a Mexican friend who loved the size of his biceps, couldn't speak English, but just kept pointing to his biceps and giving him the thumbs up. I kind of love how there's like a universal language in gyms as well, even when you can't speak the language.
Yeah. I've had a lot of unconventional experiences. So me and my good mate, we used to push and pull his 4-wheel drive, right? And we till this day, we sort of are like, how do we do that for long periods, right? So we'd push the car and have people in there and pull it, and rope climbs. And the other one was chains in the US. So my good friend and mentor, John Brookfield, took myself and Dan for a few days of just pulling chains and doing all sorts of unconventional training. It was, by the end of it, I couldn't even pick up my luggage to go back home. So, yeah. But there was one time in Brazil where there was this It was a kind of a pseudo museum, and they had an old school strength training set up. So you're talking about, back in the day, the kettlebell really came out of a weight, right? So what the strongman would do at the time was pick that up and see who could press the strongest weighing scale. There was a weighing scale. So they actually had that in this gym. So it wasn't that heavy, but I picked that up and was performing, and my friends were like, "What are you doing with those?" Doing windmills and swings, and so I turned the museum into a functional playground. Yeah, that was fun.
Amazing. All right. We've got one more question written down, and then I'm going to throw the last question at you. We'll see how we go. Now, we talked about training. So after your training high, what's your favorite way to wind down?
I have a 16-month-old, so I don't know chill. But swim, just hop in the pool. Finish training, get home, I just jump in the pool, and I just look around and go, I'm in the pool, life's pretty good. And sit out there for 10, 15 minutes, and then it's good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I like a lot of self-reflection. So I'll go out for walks, or the pool that I have. I just go and do some walking, marching through the pool, and some exercising and stretching in the pool. I really enjoy that. So I'll do that for about half an hour, and that's really cool chill time for me.
All right, Eunice?
I am a total book nerd and a little bit of a gamer. Well, not exciting games. I like games that aren't that challenging, because I get really annoyed at myself if I'm not good at it. So they can't be too challenging because I'm not that great at it. So I'll do a little bit of Nintendo Switch to wind down. But you can see the shelf behind me if you've ever got a visual. All my fantasy books. I am a total fantasy Disney total nerd on that stuff. I absolutely love it.
Have you played Breath of the Wild on Switch?
No, but I hear good things.
It's a great waste of time, about 400 hours deep. It's fantastic.
Great. All right, next one.
We're nerds.
I didn't even know that about you two as well. So we're going to learn a lot about each other through this podcast.
Excellent. Okay, last one. Let's finish on a bit of an inspiring one. Who do you listen to and or read to get inspiration? Could be one, could be a couple of people. But when you need something to get you going, what do you pick up?
I like to read a lot too, yeah. So I've got a whole diverse range of books that I read. Yeah, not any one particular person, but I'd often get a reference and then go read on that particular person. And often the messages for me are often, spiritual based. So really psychology, spirituality, I get a lot from that, because then it allows me to kind of look at myself and go, how can I then improve myself and help others with those messages? So I've got many, many books and people that I do like, and maybe in other podcasts we can dive into those a little bit more, but often the lessons from them, and then I'm able to adapt that into my life. So for me, I'm a pragmatist. I like to see, well, how can that improve me as a person and what I do as well, to then share those lessons with others.
That's awesome.
I am a massive book nerd too. And yeah, like Tarek, I read a lot of psychology and lots of habit formation, neurology-based stuff, because that's, in my education with training people, that's what became the limiting factor after a period of time. I was a biomechanics nerd for many, many years, and programming and all that kind of stuff. So I started getting into that world, and then looking at it not only from the psychology, but more the philosophy side of things, because the philosophy then helps underpin everything that you do ideally at the end of the day. But to answer the question very succinctly, it's Kobe.
Kobe.
It's another basketball player. His mindset was, I've actually got a signed Kobe Bryant basketball and rookie card right here, right in arm's length at all times, to remind me that I spent a lot of money on it and I need to work hard. But also his Mamba mentality, his approach to doing things was very methodical, very consistent, master the basics, inspire others. I've got all the things up there as well, learn from wins and losses. It was his work ethic. And when I'm thinking, I'm tired, I'm like, what would he do? I even got his logo tattooed on my arm. So it was his attitude and how he fought through injuries, how he fought through adversity and got past that. I try and model that in a lot of different ways.
That's awesome. I really admire people who have that person that they really want to emulate. I think that's really cool. I'm kind of similar to you, Tarek. I take bits and pieces from lots of different avenues, and I find that depending on where I am in life, I'll either go back to something or I'll deviate from the plan and try something completely new. At the moment, I'm really loving I'm loving podcasts just in general, I think, which is part of the big reason why, we came to this place is I'm loving Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. He's a British doctor and he wants to improve the world of health, which I just think medical systems in first world countries are beyond broken at the moment, and it's inspiring to hear people within industries create change. I also love Mel Robbins for all of her psychology and emotion and relationships. I particularly love the relationship side of psychology because, when you're working with clients, it's all about fostering relationships. But then I'm really similar to you as well, Paul, because I'm a major biomechanics and programming nerd, and that's never going to leave. I still really go deep into the science. So I've requested from an anatomist, his name's Gil Headley. You might hear me talk about him eventually. I love Dr. Gil. He's incredible. I requested him, I was like, tell me about hypermobility. I can't find stuff about it. So if I can't find something, I'm going to try and delve into the sources and worm my way through until I get a response. And he was so good and he put on a whole webinar and stuff and I got it all and figured it all out. It's so good. And so I think that if you're curious and if you want to be inspired, there's so much out there that you can find that is really cool. You can be inspired by so many different things. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's powerful from you guys. It's really wonderful hearing from you guys as well, as much as I'm sure the listeners hopefully were enthralled by what all three of us are having to say here. But yeah, I feel like throughout my journey so far in, let's say, in this work life, it's interesting that the more I tap into intuition, so how I define intuition is it transcends logic. Like Einstein said, logic takes us from A to B, but imagination, including intuition, can take us anywhere. So, of course, logic helps us and we need that. However, it's important to really tap into that deeper sense of how we learn, how we sense. And so what that's done for me is yes, it's opened up doors where I've met various people who have opened up new doors for me, and I'm able to do the same for others in that context too. So I think it's important to tap into intuition rather than say yes or no, and really be, on the fence all the time. And I think that for me has served me so far in life really well. Made mistakes, I continue to do so, but I do that in light of how I can improve as a person, a human being first. And that's enabled me to become better at my own craft as well.
That's a nice way to finish, I think. It's a beautiful way to finish. Yeah, excellent. What I will say to that is in the following episodes, we can look forward to our guests answering that first question that we answered. So every time we get someone on, we want to understand how they would change the industry. And I also think that we want to hear from listeners as well. If you have a question, if you want us to dive down into a particular topic, if you have someone who you think will be valuable to be on the podcast, there's avenues that you can find us. You can check us out in the show notes with the links that you can approach us on. And we want to hear from you. We want this to be an interactive podcast for everybody.
Can't wait for the next one.
Incredible. Yeah. So thanks so much for joining us. We will catch you all next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Purpose Driven Movement. We pour our hearts and souls into creating valuable and engaging content for you. We would be so grateful if you could take a moment now to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more people, and it also helps others discover our podcast. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you soon.